Now, there's a wonderful work of Schopenhauer's. He says, when you reach a certain age, and he wrote this when he was, say, in his 60s or so, and look back over your life, it seems to have had an order. It seems to have had been composed by someone. And those events that, when they occurred, seemed merely accidental and occasional and just something that happened, turn out to be the main elements in a consistent plot. So he says, who composed this plot? And he said, and just as your dreams are composed by an aspect of yourself of which your consciousness is unaware, so your whole life has been composed by the will within you. And then he says, just as those people whom you met by chance became effective agents in the structuring of your life, so you have been an agent in the structuring of other lives. And the whole thing gears together like one big symphony, he says, everything influencing and structuring everything else. And he said, it's as though our lives were the dream of a single dreamer in which all the dream characters are dreaming too. And so everything links to everything else, moved out of the will in nature. It's a beautiful idea. It's an idea that occurs in India in the image of what's called the net of Indra, or the net of gems. It's a net of gems where every gem reflects all the other ones. And they also have the idea of a spontaneous and simultaneous arising. Everything arises in relation to everything else, and so you can't blame anybody for anything. It's all working around. It's a marvelous idea. It's as though there were an intention behind it, and yet it all is by chance. We can't have a mythology for a long, long time to come. Things are changing too fast. The environment in which we're living is changing too fast for it to become mythologized. You must realize...
How do we live without myths, then?
Well, we're doing it. The individual has to find the aspect of myth that has to do with the conduct of his life.
I met a very wonderfully talented lady who's a political cartoonist, English lady, named Sue Coe. But when she saw Star Trek, it gave her a vision, not of a world necessarily that she could live in, but it gave her a vision that it gave her an understanding that there were people who were thinking those thoughts, the people who were making the show, plus the fact that it came at a very turbulent time when the future of society, the planet, everything was up for grabs. Nobody knew where we were going.
But then there's another function, and that's the sociological one of validating and maintaining a certain society. That is the side of the thing that has taken over in our world.
What do you mean?
Ethical laws, the laws of life in the society.
For the first time, people on television, people saw themselves. Not only did we not annihilate ourselves on this planet, but we are going forth. What progress? What with a sense of adventure?
But then there's a fourth function of myth, and this is the one that I think today everyone must try to relate to. That's the pedagogical function, how to live a human lifetime under any circumstances. Myth can tell you that.
I think this is going to be my basic prediction here, that Star Trek will become the blueprint for the 21st century. The philosophy, the ideals, the prime directive, they're all going to be a genetic map to for a better future, a better tomorrow, for better mankind.
I don't think that it will ever die. I don't think something like that can ever die. You've got a phenomenon. After all, this is our 20th century mythology. That's big.
I don't know. I hope it lasts forever. It's a good thing. As long as it's thoughtful, it's a good thing.
Star Wars producer-director George Lucas.
About 10 years ago, I set out to write a children's film. I had an idea of doing a modern fairy tale. Stumbled across A Hero with a Thousand Faces. After reading more of Joe's books, I began to understand how I could do this. It was a great gift, and a very important moment. If I don't, it's possible that if I hadn't run across that, I would still be writing Star Wars today. There's a wonderful life force that comes through, a wit and charm when Joe speaks, that as wonderful as the books are, don't capture the man.
I just got done watching one of my favorite movies, Star Wars, Episode 3. While watching it, I couldn't help but be drawn into the movie, especially into Luke Skywalker's story. It reminded me a lot of many heroic stories that I've heard before. That's because his journey in Star Wars has been modeled after the same heroic journey that humans have been recounting for thousands of years. This is what some call the hero's journey. Others call this the monomyth. The idea of the hero's journey was first brought to light by Joseph Campbell in his book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces. This heroic journey is described by Campbell as when a hero ventures forth from the world of common day into a region of supernatural wonder. Fabulous forces are there encountered, and a decisive victory is won. The hero comes back from this mysterious adventure with the power to bestow boons on his fellow man.
I like mining the past, going into the myths, finding modern applications or updating them, and just tapping this resource that mythology and folklore can be. My model for this is Joseph Campbell, who looked at certain patterns that show up again and again in the myths and the legends, and also in our own structure, the way we're built as human beings, in our dreams, in our psychology. And that leads to the final movement, return with the elixir. This is a term Campbell used. The elixir is some kind of magic thing like the golden fleece or the Holy Grail that brings back life into the culture. And so the idea is the hero has to go on a journey and learn some things and change and bring something back to share with everybody else, or it's a total waste of time.
Okay, so I was in the middle of putting together this video here talking about this topic of Indra's net or Indra's web, which is that clip from the beginning with Joseph Campbell, the author Joseph Campbell, which comes from Hindu, Vedic philosophy. And I had been looking into that because I had come across some other documentary where it was actually talking about, this whole idea of dark matter and dark energy comprising 70% of the Copernican universe, or whatever percentage it is. And of course, it was another one of these New Age documentaries where they're taking elements from Copernican cosmology, the whole heliocentric paradigm, and they themselves are pointing out how it embodies these ancient ideas from mysticism and occultism. Right, this whole idea, so it bleeds back into this whole idea of pantheism or panpsychism, which is becoming increasingly prevalent, even from mainstream figures of scientism. This whole idea of the universe itself being conscious, the universe itself being alive like an organism, and they even show this comparison of, they have this computer simulation of what the dark matter or dark energy would look like if you could actually see it, but of course you can't because it's undetectable, but the math equations tell them that it's there, right? But no, they latch onto it because it's like, it's the nervous system for the universe and everything's connected, and then it of course ties back into quantum physics and all these crazy ideas about everything being quantum entangled, and so everything is connected to everything else, and it's pantheistic monism once again. And so I was in the middle of kind of exploring all this, and then Joseph Campbell, of course, is this author who he's kind of a nexus of a lot of things, where he wrote this book called Hero with a Thousand Faces that was a huge influence on George Lucas and all the stuff about mythology. And of course, mythology is really just sort of this veiled approach of incorporating ideas that come from the mystery schools. But if you just package it as mythology, well, then they're just stories from humanity. And so this whole idea of the hero's journey is something that you come across a lot when you're kind of poking around in esoteric circles, and it's basically this metaphor for the journey, the journey of enlightenment, the journey of discovery, the journey of the mystical truth seeker, and that's why it's so prevalent, and that's why they, it's really why they incorporate it, and of course the fact that it's tied in with Star Wars is not a surprise, right? Because it's all a metaphor for both the individual and humanity as a whole in this quest to face adversity and go through the drama, face the peril, face the danger, learn lessons along the way. It's basically just, it's supposed to be this whole like archetypal representation of what we as people and as a species are going through on our journey towards rediscovering our own divinity, right? And that's what the Mystery Schools is all about. So I'm all like neck deep in this stuff, right? Joseph Campbell was, he was influenced by a number of people, one of them being Carl Jung, who was a total occultist. And that's, again, another, like, all these terms that come from Jungian psychology that are, again, just veiled concepts from the occult. But anyways, so I'm in the middle of all this, right? And then I take a break and pop over and check out the recent Glowbusters episode from last weekend. And they're talking about this syncretistic flat earth model that they're all really excited about, and I had this guest Martin on, and I tried to boil down some of the most pertinent clips, but I still ended up with like 10 minutes of stuff that was just incredibly revealing, and I'll try and play a few here, but without going overboard.
It's very clear that by organizations like the Thunderbolts Project and a very massively growing number of scientists and physicists and electrical engineers that are looking at this going, no, this cannot be the way that this universe is operating. It's a completely different principle, and thus further debunking this whole cosmology, astronomy, astrophysics model, and it's going down. It really is. And it turns out that all of this stuff, the more you apply our modern day knowledge to looking at what you've been looking at, this syncretistic type of method, that maybe the ancients weren't so dumb after all, right?
Oh yeah, oh definitely. In fact, I'm absolutely sure that we are backwards. We've gone backwards. So what we're doing, this technology that we're calling technology today, this technology is artificial technology. It's not natural technology. So we're trying to replicate the natural technology of the universe that God created, which you might want to call magic, right? So we've lost that. We've lost those ancient knowledge of how to use natural states of being to create technologies like levitating stones with sound. I'm sure you've come across those videos, sound resonance and frequency. So that's natural technology. So what we've done is we've actually gone backwards. And it's almost like now we're starting to rediscover those things and saying, well, actually, we need to move away from bits and ones and zeros and that sort of thing and go back to seeing what sound and resonance and things in nature can do to advance us technologically. Yeah. So I would like, hopefully, and I've been lucky enough to grasp this, and I thank so much Santos for helping me see this, because it's opened so many new doors into understanding a lot of these secrets of our universe that otherwise, and a lot of them I can't explain them. I can't, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a smart guy, I'm not a mathematician, I'm not smart in any sense of the word. But when I learned to mix that spiritual element with the physical element, with the mind, body, and spirit, when I learned that alchemical process, everything just came together for me, and everything just starts to make sense. And you start seeing the world in a different way, because you're now using all your God-given senses. We're given these senses for a reason. You're given a mind, you're given a soul, you're given a body to use them. So it's really important, and I get frustrated when I see so much of that in the flat earth community, where so many people are either stuck in that religious box and it's all just, my book, my religion, or they're stuck in the science box and saying, I don't care about any of the, New Age stuff. They call it New Age. So New Age is just a derogatory term to try and discredit, this syncretic line of thinking. In the same way they've invented things like the word conspiracy theorist, So when you're in that conspiracy theorist world and you wake up to it, you realize that no, you're getting this whole conspiracy theorist tag wrong. It's an indoctrination. It's the same thing with the New Age. Why is the New Age thing a bad thing? Don't we want to get into a New Age? Isn't that what we want? Do we not want to get rid of the old age, the old paradigm, the old system? Yes. So you can see how these controllers have used these words to confuse us and manipulate us. So I get frustrated when I speak to flat and they're like, oh, that's New Age-ish. And it's like, well, isn't that what we want? Do we not want a New Age? A new age of thinking, a new age of behaving, a new age of discovery, a new age of pioneering science and spirituality and everything, our existence. So a lot of these things, I really think they're important that we maybe talk about them a bit more than we give them credit for sure.
Yeah, I absolutely
totally agree. And I want to drop a comment because I totally agree with Martin, because for me the New Age is the transhumanism, the synthetic drugs, and the NASA style of the universe. But when you refer all these kind of things, there is the old age in fact. And if you want to look it in the better way, you can see, okay, is the old age or is a new age based on old knowledge? Because that guys live better than us. I don't mean in terms of politics and economics and that kind of stuff, but I mean in terms of the spiritual surrounding world. But I totally agree with Martin. The New Age word is put out there to confuse us, and the really New Age is based more in the technological mix with humans and the spiritual world than the really New Age meaning.
But overall, I don't know, it's not that this is anything totally new. In fact, it's not new at all. What I was struck by was, I was thinking about this video that I made however long ago. Was it like maybe a year? But, a ways back, I made this video called Flat Earth, the Final Mystery School. And just exploring, because it was when Bob and Cammie and they were working on the heart map, or they were really first getting into all this stuff with Kenneth Wheeler and the electromagnetic, this model of the toroidal electromagnetic dielectric inertial plane, or whatever you want to call it. And really getting deep into the electromagnetics, and is this this is sort of the key to unlocking the flat Earth map and all this stuff. And it was very clear even then to see kind of where this was all going, and how this whole idea of solving the puzzle of the map and trying to solve the mysteries of how does the Earth really work if it's an enclosed system or a flat Earth, to where you could really see how it is itself becoming a vehicle for people to get sucked further into all sorts of occult ideologies and esoteric doctrines and stuff, which were already there, but it's just reinforcing and pulling people deeper. And so now fast forward to here we are with this. They're coming out and just owning this whole idea of the New Age, and claiming that New Age, the term New Age, has been sort of weaponized in the same way that conspiracy theorist has been weaponized, right? And so it's this pejorative, negative connotation, and saying like, well, shouldn't we be wanting to be creating a new age? Shouldn't we be wanting to do that? And man, I was just blown away by just kind of looking back and seeing the progression and seeing it really come to fruition, seeing it pan out in the way that, this is exactly what I was sort of afraid of, or saw coming, and it's all like right on script, or just because it just speaks to the nature of the stubbornness of the human heart, right? And this argument, there's so many things that could be said about this. I mean, I've been thinking about it nonstop, but really, if you try and like boil it down to what's at the core, like what's really the pivotal argument that they're trying to base so much of this on, that's just so weak. But again, and this is something you hear all the time. It's just this, it's just this rationale that tries to say that, yes, the New World Order elites, if you want to call them elites, the controllers, the powers that should not be, whatever, that they're lying to us about all these things, and they're deceiving, and they're, murdering and killing, and all they do is lie, but they have to tell us the truth, when it comes to the occult knowledge, when it comes to the occult truths that supposedly they know, and they're using it against us. And this is the idea that to me is like, and it's just, I'd be tempted to laugh and ridicule it if it wasn't so tragic, and it wasn't just such a sad state of affairs that people really do convince themselves of this, despite just the ridiculous amount of evidence and the insane amount of information that just destroys this idea, like backwards and forwards. And so again, here's another perfect example, looking at Joseph Campbell and George Lucas, and this whole idea of the hero's journey and mythology being embedded, and Indra's net being represented by Copernican, so the whole idea of syncretism, what they're actually talking about the Globebusters episode's like three hours long or something like that, so there's a whole lot that they say in there. But one of the things they're talking about, he's explaining with the syncretism, is that so when you buy into this idea that the occults, because of karma or whatever your rationale is, that they have to reveal certain truths about the electromagnetism being basically the core of, the magic that they have learned to wield against us, right? That this ancient wisdom that the ancient shamanic peoples and different cultures have all knew, and we're all in tune with, and we've lost it, and they've hidden it from us, and all these ridiculous claims. And so, so he's talking about how even in the globe model, even in the Copernican cosmology, there are certain truths that are still embedded in there that, we can decipher, and that we can glean from it and not throw the baby out with the bathwater, essentially. That's what he's saying. So, again, this is kind of something that I've been talking about over the past couple of years now. The more I started to really study what science says about the universe and about just the whole Big Bang cosmology, and learning more and more about how many parallels and how it really does embody and encapsulate the same ancient pantheistic concepts of a self-creating universe, a self-organizing universe, this whole idea that, especially once you get into the weirdness of all the claims made by quantum physics and everything. But even before that, it's there. It all comes out of Kabbalah, really. The whole idea of the planets, and this being a planetary system, and how there's these spheres. These all existed in the realm of the occult with Kabbalah and the whole idea of like nuclear fusion and fission. This was alchemy. This existed. These as concepts. These all go back to ancient Hinduism, Eastern mysticism, ancient Greece. Which is inseparable from the mystery schools. This is where it all comes from, all as concepts, and then eventually got fleshed out through, the quote-unquote Enlightenment and the scientific revolution and all these things, and supposedly were discovered. But every, time and time again, as concepts, they existed first as teachings within the occult realm. So here we have these guys, Bob, Jaron, Iru, and their guest Martin talking about, and they're all on the same page here. They're all just super excited about this whole idea of the syncretistic flat earth model, where essentially, yeah, it's all about embracing every last piece of pantheistic monism. Bob goes so far as to say, like, yeah, he's just regurgitating the same thing we've heard from Eric Dubay about how, God was basically bored and wanted to divide himself up and have an adventure and so that's why he had to kind of fracture himself, fractalize himself into individual, the main consciousness, the cosmic consciousness fractures itself into all these individual consciousnesses, which is us. And then our task is to go through life and go through the journey and go through the adventure and go through all these experiences, and which requires, dualism. So all these temporary expressions of good and bad and right and wrong and up and down are necessary for the sake of the story, for the sake of the journey, in order to have the adventure, you need the protagonist and the antagonist, right? So this is the whole argument, and it's nothing new under the sun. But seriously latching onto this, because it's just, it all boils down to the same old seduction of being your own God, being God, not having to answer to a higher authority that is separate from you, that was eternal, that created you from nothing, but to where it's all about, whatever whatever way works for you, you kind of choose your own flavor, choose your own style of self-actualized godhood, but it's all the same belief system in the end. And that's, of course, what is always the claim. It always comes back to this central idea of the perennial philosophy, which says that all religions teach the same core thing, right? Deep down, they're all revealing the same underlying truths and the same underlying things. And so that's why, of course, flat Earth, in a lot of ways can easily feed into that, because when people start looking into flat Earth and taking it seriously, and then studying what all the different ancient cultures believed about, an enclosure and it being a flat enclosed system, they have all these various differences, but then there's all these commonalities, of course. And not just even about it being enclosed, but then when you get into things like the axis point, the axis mundi, and you compare that with this toroidal sort of vortex idea that has to do with, and it's not that and of course, people who've been watching my stuff for a matter of time have known that I'm not saying that I don't think that there is indeed probably some reality to this. I think it's pretty safe to say that there's probably something to this idea of, there's a magnetic center. We all, that's undisputable. And everything having to do with the luminaries is somehow tied into this electromagnetic vortex. And it's definitely tied into how a lot of things work. It's not that it's all nonsense. There is a string of truth kind of weaving through even all the pagan mythologies and the pagan ancient cosmologies. But of course, they're all mixed in with the warped teachings about spirituality and about, what our goal as humans is, and the gods and all these higher celestial powers and all the rest. So just amazing to hear them talking about, well, aren't we supposed to be creating a new age? Isn't that what we're supposed to be doing? And just instantly, it made me think about a conversation I've had with a friend of mine for a long time. It's kind of an ongoing, this idea of the new world order, and I've been meaning to talk about this for a long time, but it just kind of came up now, because everyone agrees that the current new world order, this oppressive, militaristic, materialistic regime, that it's all about war and death and stealing and wealth, and it's sort of viewed as the antithesis of this ideal of true enlightenment and true spirituality, where everyone comes together and we reject all of that and create, create this equitable society where, everyone is accepted and everyone is free, and there's no more central banking system, and there's no more toxic, allopathic, oppressive medical industries, and, all the rest, all Monsanto and all this stuff is a thing of the past, right? This is the real New Age dream, and this is what is so crucial for us to try and to communicate to people who are getting deceived by this whole zeitgeist kind of gospel, really, to where, this is what it's all built around. Is, of course, you don't have to work hard to demonize the current New World Order. Once you learn about it, we all inherently know that it's a bad thing, but then this is what so somehow, the Bible and religion, that's all part of the control program, right? Regardless of the fact that most of those people never pick up the Bible and actually read more than a stray verse here or there and take it out of context and twist it to mean whatever they want it to mean or want it not to mean or whatever. But then the occult teachings, the Luciferian teachings, that these controllers that you hate, these elites, these New World Order, child sacrificing, Bohemian Grove, sex partying, Satanists, they've still got, there's we're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We're not going to throw out this esoteric truths that they've been hoarding, and they just don't want to reveal the full secret. They really convince themselves that it's like, oh, well, they're only giving us distorted versions. It's only incomplete. They don't want us to find the full scope of all the ancient mystery school knowledge, because then we'll be able to rise up against them and find our full human potential, and then the real new age will come into being, and the real new age, and they don't even know that they're lockstep with the same ideology, the same anti-Christian, anti-Bible ideology that was being spouted 100 years ago by the Theosophists. And shame on you for not actually bothering to learn about what their plan is, what the secret doctrine is all about, what Blavatsky and Alice Bailey were all talking about. Like, you're right according to script. The people that the Lucius Trust, the Lucifer's Trust, who created the UN, the current New World Order. There's only one spiritual truth claim. There's only one spiritual belief system that they are adamantly opposed to, that they want to eradicate from the earth, and that is biblical Christianity. Absolutely. And so when people say religion and the Abraham, really they're talking about Christianity. The gospel that says, no, there's no other way but the cross. Forgiveness of your sin. There's no salvation apart from Jesus Christ. This is what the occultists hate, the Theosophists hate, this is what the New World Order elites hate. And somehow you think that is really what is your enemy too. But, going back to Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey, and the hero with 1,000 faces, and it's, it should be plain as day. Like, how many examples do you need to see that, occultism is what is being pushed. These esoteric truths, these supposedly hidden truths, are not being hidden from you. There's this little agenda called the externalization of the hierarchy. Okay, like I said, it was written over 100 years ago. The hierarchy. Who is the hierarchy? Who are the real controllers of this whole oppressive New World Order system? They're not humans. They are spiritual entities, interdimensional entities, ancient spiritual entities. And you have to decide, and if you are in this long enough, you will come to realize that they are real. The more you get into all the esoteric truths and you start embracing the occult in the New Age, and the reality of a spiritual realm, you will. Whether you experience them directly or just realize that enough people out there also have experienced them and believe in them, that they're real, right? It's not just humanity in this system, in this creation. And either you're going to buy into the pantheistic monism, which, all of these entities, all of these consciousnesses, all of these intelligences are all sort of different little fractalized pieces of the greater cosmic consciousness, and so therefore none of them are all good and evil, and so therefore we can all kind of just make our own way, and we're all on this ladder back to divinity, back to the source. Or you might want to stop and consider what the Bible says, that there was a creator God, eternal, separate from his creation, because he created it out of nothing. It wasn't an extension of himself, it wasn't an emanation of himself. It's a separate thing, designed with a free will, a true free will, so that it could truly love, because without free will, there's no such thing as true love or true obedience or true relationship. Either you're a robot or you have to have the ability to disobey. Without sin, there's no such thing as... So it's totally different than this whole sort of convoluted argument about, oh, God, the monistic God had to create dualism in order to have this adventure and, sort of create amnesia for himself and rediscover himself. Because really, what you're doing, just like Joseph Campbell says at the beginning, you can't blame anyone for anything, because it's all part of God. All those New World Order people that you hate now and you want to replace with your real New World Order, the real New Age, you think they've got it wrong. You think that they're messing it up. You're upset because they're lying to you and stealing from you and raping and killing and poisoning and all that. Well, it's all just It's all just part of the dualistic adventure. They're as much of God as you are. They are just as inherently divine, and there's no such thing as judgment or evil or, objective morality from an objective moral lawgiver, being God. That doesn't exist. So yeah, who are you upset about? Who are you mad at? What are you fighting against exactly? You're just embrace the story, man. Just embrace the dance. Embrace the temporary dualism, because it's all going to fade away once God sort of pieces them back together again and goes, oh, that was fun. There's no tragedy, there's no loss, there's no real infraction, there's no real sin, there's no real evil. It's all just temporary dualistic polarization in order to, God to entertain himself by dissociating himself. Basically, I never thought of it that way, but that's exactly kind of what you're essentially describing. A schizophrenic God who dissociated himself into billions and billions of little consciousnesses to have this whole big play that doesn't mean anything, because it's all one thing. It's all meaningless. And nobody can fully live that way. These ideas are always great when it's like, oh yes, get your oppressive religious biblical God away from me with his oppressive moral expectations and guidelines. Get that off my life, get that off my body, get that off my time and my money and my, I'm the king of my own little kingdom. I don't need your oppressive savior God who thinks that I need to actually repent and ask for forgiveness. No, I want to be God. That's a great, people love that idea. People love this whole idea of, oh, we're gonna create a utopia. We're all, as soon as we all get our consciousnesses on a higher frequency and get it all figured out, then yeah, it's gonna be heaven on earth, man. You're fooling yourselves. It's foolishness, and it's exactly what you've been taught. This is what and this is what amazes me. It's like, how many times can you show this? One of the earliest videos I made a long time ago was about Star Wars, kind of just showing how, in the whole Star Wars saga, speaking of George Lucas and Joseph Campbell, it all connects again, right? The cosmology and the science fiction propaganda and the spirituality, it's all one message, and it always has been. This is not difficult to show again and again and again. Go back and look at the Star Wars. It's kind of appropriate because, there's the new one coming out in a matter of days, but it's all about the Force and the light and the dark and going back and forth and all these, it's Eastern mysticism repackaged and put in front of billions of people. So anyone who's still trying to act like, oh no, they're trying to steer you away from these ancient occult truths, it's like, get a clue. Get a clue. Pantheistic monism is like everywhere you look. It's not the God of the Bible by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, I look at this, and especially in the context of, we just had the Flat Earth Conference, and 3 out of 4 of the guys in this conversation were there on the stage. Were there being promoted and put up there, and yes, we had Dino come and speak and drop that whole bomb, and I'm still trying to figure out if he's, been extracted from that whole scene, if he's not welcome at, apparently they're doing another one in Texas right next year. They've already got that figured out, and this is again where the whole question of the ecumenical problem, this whole can of worms that it's opened, whether you want to admit it or not. Robbie Davidson, I love you, man, but it's like, are you paying attention? Are you listening to this? Are we seriously going to keep pretending like we can all come under this banner of, flat earth awakening and flat earth realization, and we're going to turn? The reason that these guys are latching on to flat earth and just think that, like, oh, all press is good press, there's no such thing as bad press, let's go talk to the mainstream media, let's just get it out there, we're going to create this tidal wave, and it is continuing to grow because of all the evidence, right? But you have to stop and see, like, for as many people that are coming to the true God through flat earth, people who are finding Jesus Christ, and there are, but then the flip side of that coin is how many people then, Yeah, Flat Earth doesn't create atheists. It creates either Christians or it creates straight up Luciferian occultists. Okay? That's just the reality that we're stuck in the middle of. And it's nothing really new. It's been the same way with the truth movement. It's been the same way with society as a whole. There's two kingdoms. There's God's kingdom and there's Satan's kingdom. The serpent who wears 1,000 faces. The serpent who's implanted his false teachings and his lies through 1,000 different cultures and shamanic traditions and secret societies and mystery schools and enlightened cultures. Islamic mysticism, Chinese mysticism, African tribal shamanism, you name it. All across the flat plane. Different variations of the same underlying thing, and this is what the one world religion is going to be. The syncretized amalgamation of the ancient mysteries, the ancient polytheistic, pantheistic quest for achieving our own divinity, being syncretized with science and with technology and spirit science. They actually talk about spirit science in this discussion. The lines have been drawn. Even if you don't want to draw them, they're being drawn all around you. And at some point, you either have to stand up and speak out and say, no, I can't. The gospel comes first and foremost before cosmology, before, all this interesting research about electromagnetism. And it is, and it's interesting. But if you turn that into the mystery that you're going to unlock, that's going to just open the floodgates and allow the real new age, the real humanistic salvation to occur, the new leap in consciousness for mankind, you've just bought into the same old lie from Genesis 3 that the serpent has been telling ever since. Nothing new under the sun. So our calling is clear. And if you're claiming to promote Flat Earth and promote other Flat Earthers because it points to the creator of the Bible, you can't just keep coming under the banner of, oh, it's a creator, and I know who the creator is, and I'm just going to hope that it rubs off on you. I'm just going to keep partnering with people and inviting them to conferences and be speakers and be, we'll have the Christian stuff over here, and then we'll have the mixed bag stuff over there, and then we'll all just come together. It's foolishness. It's delusional. This is Luciferian doctrine. So hopefully I'm making sense here. I know this is kind of a ramble, but it's getting real. These guys, I love these guys, but they are just so deceived. So smart in so many ways, and yet embracing utter foolishness because apparently it's what their hearts are continuing to choose at this point. And I'm not speaking this to attack people. I'm not saying any of this to attack people. I'm saying use your mind, use reason, but do the research. Don't talk about the Bible if you've never picked it up and actually read it. Don't talk to me about how the Bible really is just, all these guys. They're all basically disciples of Santos Bonacci at this point, preaching his astrotheology garbage, which is nothing new. Everything he's saying has been said before. It's just a rehash of material from Manly P. Hall and scores of other occultists that came before him. Yeah, he's got nothing new that you can't hear anywhere else. It's patently untrue. It's patently untrue. All these claims about how the Bible just really teaches the zodiac and it's all just esoteric language for the mystery school. It is utter nonsense. It's so pitifully indefensible that it honestly always feels like it's beneath me to ever even try and take somebody by the hand and walk them through. Just pick a chapter, pick one chapter of anywhere in the New Testament, or especially the Gospels, because they take one little thing that Jesus said and they turn it into, oh, this is symbolism for the sun god and all this. You got to read more than one verse, guys. I mean, it's just sad. It is sad how intellectually bankrupt that idea is. I mean, it's a joke. Astrotheology is a joke. Santos Bonacci does not have any truth to give you. And all this idea, don't get me started on all the stuff about breaking down, what they call etymology and breaking down words. And bringing out all the secret meanings, and we can unpack all the. It's like this is, I mean, talk about just being led in circles. But the bottom line is, it's like, guys, wake up. You know, for anyone who's still listening, you know, I'm not, you know, I'm not making these videos at this point or speaking about this because I'm under any delusions whatsoever as to, you know, turning the majority, even within the flat Earth camp, which is, of course, is a minority of a minority of a minority, because I know that this New Age deception, the spiritual deception, this dream about finally achieving the new world order, the true New Age that will, you know, put the power back in the hands of the people and restore peace and justice back to the galaxy. I'm just like, yeah, did you guys watch Star Wars? Does this sound familiar? The rebels fighting the Empire? The evil Empire? Right? The Emperor knew how to use the Force too. He just used it for the dark side. We got to use it for the light side. We got to use the white magic. We got to use it for good. We got to use it to set all the people free. And then we'll, you know, have a party with the Ewoks. And it's like, come on, guys. The Bible says that the fact that we long for a better future, we long for this, you know, heaven to finally come down to earth, for all this to be over. That is a longing that comes from the soul of people that know that there really is wrong in the world. There really is evil. There really is sin. There really is wrongs that need to be righted. There really is a reckoning and accounting that must happen. Things need to change. At some point, all this needs to stop. And it will. Because the Creator himself is going to come back and call all things into account. But it's not just all going to dissolve and be reabsorbed back into him, and it's all just, oh, that was fun. No, it's going to be a real reckoning. It's going to be a real judgment. And the devil and his angels are going to really be judged, and all those who followed him. And that's why this is serious. That's why this is no game. That's why this is no petty, oh, you're just creating division. No, this is, if there's anything worth dividing over, this is it. Who cares about anything else, really? If you want to believe in the globe and space, knock yourself out. Do you know who the Creator is? Do you know what he's calling of your life? Do you understand, are you able to actually explain what evil is? Not just in the world around you, not just in those elites, but in your own life. Have you really been able to deal with that problem? Or are you just want to keep putting your hope in meditation and aestheticism and crystals and, you're gonna learn the secrets of vibrational energy and cymatics and electromagnetism, and that's gonna deal with the evil that's in your own heart? I don't think so. Only Christ can do that. Only the Spirit of Christ, who died for your sin and my sin, and who rose again, and who is alive right now, and is listening to you right now, only he can deal with that. Only he can set you free. None of this other stuff can ultimately save you. Doesn't matter how much we figure out about the electromagnetic nature of the flat enclosed earth or whatever models we come up with, no matter how much you learn about ancient civilizations and ancient technologies, and it will not save you. All these ancient esoteric truths, they're just endless mazes. It's just like the Mandelbrot set. Which, I like it because it's like a perfect metaphor for the whole occult. It never ends. It's a bottomless pit. It's dazzling to the eye. It seems really amazing and really deep and really spiritual. It's nowhere. There's no end. There's no answers. There's no truth. It's just endless fractalizations of meaninglessness that looks like meaning because it's ordered and there's this amazing design, but there's nothing there. It never goes anywhere. There's no conclusion. There's no satisfaction. There's no salvation. There's no freedom. It's just an endless rabbit hole. It's an endless pit. It's an endless labyrinth. That's what all the mystery schools are. and you just keep chasing this carrot on a stick until you die. And then you face the real creator. And you're not some tiny little piece of him, but you don't have to wait till then. You can wake up and seek the real creator of heaven and earth right now. There's no secret to it. You can just talk to him. You can just start asking him, to show you what the truth really is. Ask him. You don't have to be sure that he's there, but you can talk to him. I challenge you, I dare you to just ask God to show you that he's real. All right, I love you guys. I'm going to end this.